We are in Blackpool Winter Gardens, and this is day one of Donkey Diaries. So here we go. There you see it. We're in the Gardens Blackpool, and if you look really if you look really closely, you can see me right there to the left of that S. You should be able to see me up there. So can you see me? That's me, Donkey. It's a good picture, isn't it? I mean, it's a good, I like the marketing for it. Even further away from them. Find the light. This light is not good though, it's down lighting. Can y'all smile? Try. That's a terrible light. How does it feel for us to enjoy your song? We absolutely love the album! How I prepared for Donkey. We had rehearsals from June to July, and then we opened up in Plymouth, and since then we've been performing 8 shows a week, sometimes 8 shows in 5 days. So it is a lot of work, but I absolutely love it. So this is a moment in the show that I have a little break, and I'm standing here in front of lots of fans. Well, you can't see them up behind, in front of me, like right there. They're two humongous fans because it gets really hot in this costume. So I auditioned for the role of Donkey at Umbrella Studios in January of 2023, and I had a first call where I sang "Don't Let It Go," and then I read 2 different scenes. Now, interestingly, I thought I hadn't booked the job the day that I got the offer, because I had a call back the following Tuesday, and I got a few notes and worked with these notes in the session, and then that was that. I knew that finals were on the Friday, but by the time Wednesday evening had come, I was writing a quick email to my agent while I was at the gym saying, look, I think it's the end of the road for me because I've not actually heard anything back from anyone. Well, as I was writing the email at the gym, my agent called me with an offer. Preparing for the role, I read the play twice. I just read it straight through in one sitting with music, and in the second sitting of reading the play, I jotted down notes about my early responses to the text. So essentially, I've got 4 different columns. The first column is what exists before the action of the play. The second column, questions about what exists before the action of the play. In the third column, facts about what exists during the play and in between the scenes. And the fourth column is questions about what exists during the play and in between the scenes of the play. And then I take all of those questions and facts and I go into research to try and uncover and discover all that I can to come up with. Then I go through the text and I kind of underline what every character says about Donkey, or circle it, and then what do I say about myself. From that information, I read it again, and then I start naming each scene. The name for each scene is just information about what happens in that scene. And then I start coming up with names for each unit in a scene. And when I divide them into a unit, what I mean is what shifts the energy of the scene, what shifts the emotion of the scene. Is there an event or an emotional event? Does someone enter the room that changes what's going on emotionally for my character in that scene? So, for instance, I may name a scene Donkey meets Shrek and falls in love. And the first unit of that scene is when I'm trying to ask Shrek for help because someone's chasing me. And then the second unit may be whenever Shrek scares off that person who's chasing me, for example. And then for that scene, I also come up with what I want from that scene. What do I need in that scene? And then I give each sentence a line of action. Those are the tactics that I'm using to get what I want. That's just a general overview. I can talk more about that, but for example, an action might be to seduce or to connive or to make fun of in order to get something from someone in a scene. These are simple sentences describing my intentions and actions in each unit for each scene. My overall objective I mark out as well. This just gives me an idea of who I am, what I'm wanting, and it gives me something to work for, something to work from in that scene to inform how I'm behaving and acting in that scene. And, what's my obstacle? What's stopping me from getting what I want in that scene? If you have any questions, put them in the comments, then I'll get into more detail about that. Now, I also create mood boards. I use pictures to get me feeling certain ways, to get me feeling about how Donkey feels and his life, and I use mood boards for that, pictures, images. I also use a musical playlist on Apple, so each emotional event that happens in the scene, for example, I might find a song and create a playlist. At the end of this process, I've created a playlist that's basically an overall of all the emotions that Donkey feels in the show. And sometimes I'll just dance to these. For this particular role, I got a movement coach. Sarah from Shapes and Motion, a wonderful person, was my movement coach for the entire show. Because it's a creature performance, I wanted to make sure that I was able to embody Donkey in a way that felt truthful. So since it was an animation film, I thought it might be a great opportunity for me to use my experience of movement to create this heightened embodiment of this character. So I fell behind once rehearsals started, to be honest, and I felt like I was scrambling to really, in my own head, in my own feeling of embodiment, really be truthful to who Donkey was. And that was difficult for me. At a certain point, though, in rehearsals, I just had this moment where I came out of my shell and Donkey came alive in my body, and it was like my body emotions, my physicality, my mentality, and everything, all the research that was in my head, it all came together, and that was an awesome feeling. The reward is that I have so much fun embodying this. I started working in the West End in 2016 as a swing. Actually, I was in the ensemble, and then I went to being a swing after that. If you're watching this, it means you're probably involved in theater, but in case you don't know what a swing or an understudy, they're a person who learns multiple roles in the show, and then they go on if someone is ill or someone is on holiday, and they fill in and substitute for those roles. I was a swing for a while, and I was like, I want to be a principal someday. Like, I want that. I want to be on stage. I want to take on that responsibility, and I want to grow into that type of performer. Like being a swing and being an understudy, you get to perform roles that are outside of yourself, that are a little bit further away from what you might normally be cast at. You learn how to kind of find inner truth in order to be a character. And sometimes those characters are far from what you would normally be able to play. So it's education as well as being able to perform. And I worked, and here we are. I did play Jimmy Early in Dreamgirls before this, and that was a really fun contract. I'll tell you about that some other time. Anyways, here we are. Good morning. So I'm in Blackpool right now. It's about 8:25 in the morning, and I'm just hopping outside to get my morning air, my morning sun. I've been listening to a podcast by a scientist named Andrew Huberman. He's a scientist who is a Stanford professor. His purpose is to kind of promote mental health, well-being, and also improving performance. He says getting out in the morning, first 10 minutes when you wake up, first 10 or 20 minutes when you wake up, going out, looking at the sun, getting outside is important for regulating your circadian regulating your circadian rhythms for good sleep. And I think also, I don't know, like I think also like good sleep. I'm walking right now in beautiful St. Anne's toward the sun there, and the sea is there behind me. So it's quite beautiful here. People are walking their doggies. It makes me miss my doggy. We've got 2 shows, one show tomorrow on the Sunday, and yeah, that's that. So it's about 8:43, and as you can see, after 20 minutes of standing out here, it's pretty sunny now. And it won't be sunny like this all day, I don't think. Oh, maybe it will. I don't see many clouds in the sky. But a lot of times here in the UK, I find that like you get a little bit of sun in the morning, and then the rest of the day is cloudy and rainy, especially in the winter anyways. And so luckily I have a little doggy that gets me out, named Pepe, that gets me out for my morning sun a lot of times, not all the time. And so I get to get out and get sun with her. But just this little bit of sun has just woken me up and brightened my mood already, which is not always the case. But a little sun in your life always helps. Oh, that's actually really nice out here for a December morning. So now I've just come in. It's time for my coffee and my morning meditations. I read this book called Miracle Mornings years ago. And so what I always try and do every morning, 6 things, try and use an hour of my day for me. The first hour of the day is for me. And I use this technique called savers. And it means silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. And so that just simply means that I wake up in the morning, try and do silence, or, you know, go out walk for a walk, or sit in silence and meditation. Sit in silence and meditation for 10 minutes, and then I'll like write down some affirmations or some self-talk that's uplifting rather than negative. Visualization, I try and visualize my day or something that I want in the future, try and see myself having it and get myself in those beautiful feelings of that. Exercise, obviously, is moving around, some yoga. Reading, The Power of the Subconscious Mind is what I'm reading. That's a pretty cool book. And reading and scribing. So I just scribe, journal. I have to remind myself that there are things that there are goals that I have that are even bigger than this. And in order to reach those goals, I think I have to constantly be learning in the role that I am, but also not take it for granted. And so I am working on, at the moment, raising the standard for myself and holding myself to a higher standard, and not comparing myself to other people, but kind of really making sure that I look within myself and make sure that I'm being the performer that I want to be professionally. And that's also being a person that is behaving and responding according to my own core values. That's as a human being and as a performer. So that's a constant work that I'm working on. That's a constant work that I'm trying to do behind the scenes. Day 1 of Donkey Diaries. If you have any questions, if you have any thoughts, put them in the comments, and make sure you subscribe to my page for more. I will see you soon.